Ahora tenemos el gusto de recibir desde la Universidad del Sur de California en Los Ángeles al profesor Nitin Kale con su conferencia a distancia Unstoppable Innovation. Antes de darle la bienvenida, veamos su semblanza.
Nitin Kale is an associate professor in the Information Technology Program, ITP, and the Epstein Department of Industrial and Systems Engineering, ISE, at the Viterbi School of Engineering, University of Southern California. He has taught at ITP since 1995 in the areas of programming, web design, interactive multimedia, enterprise resource planning, and data analytics. He has also been teaching at ISE since 2005 in the area of database design and implementation. Nitin's current areas of interest are blockchain, cryptocurrencies, database modeling, enterprise information systems, business intelligence, and big data analytics. He launched a new minor in blockchain in 2019. He is also a Bitcoin enthusiast. He earned his Bachelor of Engineering in Mechanical Engineering from the Birla Institute of Technology and Science, India, and received a Master of Science in Aerospace Engineering from the University of Southern California. He is the recipient of the 2016 Maji Najm Outstanding Service Award from SAP University Alliances, the 2014 Orthopedic Institute for Children Award for Leadership and Commitment to Philanthropy through Education, and the 2012 Epstein Department of Industrial and Systems Engineering Teacher of the Year for Excellence in Teaching and Dedication to Students, among others.
Welcome, Professor Kale. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Great. Hi, good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Good morning from Los Angeles. My name is Nitin Kale, and thank you for inviting me to speak at this summit, this conference on transformative experiences. My topic today is going to be on unstoppable innovation. I trust everyone has heard of disruptive innovation, but I want to talk about unstoppable innovation because innovation is something that never stops. We have seen this since the Industrial Revolution age and in the information technology age in the late 20th century, and now we are 20 years into the 21st century. So I want to highlight some very important milestones in unstoppable innovation. And today I will focus on the latest technological innovation called blockchain. So I invite you to go along this journey with me and to see my involvement, my understanding, and my passion for this unstoppable innovation. So let's start with a quote. And one of my favorite quotes is from Isaac Asimov. From childhood, I would say, from I was 12 or 13 years old, I've been reading science fiction. The reason for that is it inspires me, it motivates me, and it allows me to dream about what is to come. And so this quote from Isaac Asimov is about change, that it is a dominant factor in society, and the rate of change is increasing. At the end of today's presentation, I will show you a quote from our Dean of Engineering at the University of Southern California. And that talks about change and how we must embrace change. And change happens because we constantly innovate. And the innovation and change drive each other. Innovation causes change, and change causes you to innovate, to keep up with the change. So we cannot make any decision without taking into account that not only the world the way it is today, but how it will be in the future. So here's a very short history lesson. I don't want to dwell on history, but I want to show you some very important technological advances that have moved the needle forward, that have changed the world. And some of you may have started their journey in some of these decades. Of course, I was not around in the 1940s, but you can see here we start from the 1940s with the invention of the digital computer. Then came the transistor in the 50s, and the internet, or ARPANET, was invented in the United States in the late 1960s. I would like to point out that I think in 1971, the internet had only 8 computers that were connected, and one of those computers was at my University of Southern California. Today we have billions. So you can see that in 50 years, we have come from 8 computers to 8 billion devices, mobile devices, phones, computers, even cars today. In the 1970s, we came up with communication on the internet, the use of email, messaging. And then in the 1980s came the first portable computer. Until then, computers were very, very large, expensive, and in air-conditioned rooms, and only for a few. In the 1980s, the first portable computers came. I think I got my first portable computer in the early 1990s. And then came the web, with the invention of the World Wide Web in late 1980s, 1990. The web changed the internet forever. We started sharing information, doing e-commerce. We changed how the enterprise works. The enterprises, entertainment, sports, information that were never related to internet also had a web presence. In the 2000 came the mobile phone, and I call it apps, maps, and snaps, right? And with the mobile phone, people started using the mobile phone to interact with the internet rather than using a PC or a desktop computer. So there was an explosion of social media because it was so easy with the touch screen. You don't even need to understand how a computer works. You simply started using a smartphone to stay in touch and to engage with society. Because of this explosion came big data in the 2010s. So now almost 10 years, analytics, use of machine learning, big data analytics, the use of society and consumer generated data to do analytics and to give them better service or for marketing, understanding behavior, consumer behavior, etc. And then in late 2000, in the 2000s, in 2009, came a very interesting new technology called blockchain and Bitcoin. Now we are 10 years into it. And now this is a potentially disruptive innovation, unstoppable innovation. Of course, blockchain and Bitcoin were not completely new attempts at digital currency. These attempts had been made in the 90s, but had failed for several reasons until something like Bitcoin and the use of blockchain came about. I'm going to talk more about that today. And now we are in 2019. What is next? I personally am very, very interested in automation, in autonomous vehicles, in the use of artificial intelligence in our lives, self-driving vehicles, digital assistants, an assistant that stays with you all the time, the use of Siri and Cortana and Alexa. These will become ubiquitous. Every human will walk around with a digital assistant, which can translate language, we can do chores for you without even having to touch any screen. You would simply say a few things, navigate, do some shopping, set up an appointment. We're already doing that. So artificial intelligence, in my opinion, is the next unstoppable innovation. So I will talk a little bit about that as well. But I want to start off by talking about blockchain. I want to get everyone excited about the potential of blockchain, how it could change society. It is another example of unstoppable innovation. The amount of research that is going on in blockchain is astounding. Entire departments in computer science, information systems are abuzz with the potential of blockchain. So I want to step back in history a little bit to give you some motivation on how the past excites, informs us about the future. We're talking about science fiction, but we're also talking about history. So my topic for the next few minutes is a story about money, from bulle to rhinestones and to Bitcoin. How did we come to this Bitcoin and the use of blockchain? So here's a story about money. Have you ever stopped to think why we need money? What is the reason we have money? And here's a short answer for it. We need money because money is a coordination implement. What does that mean? Alice has bread. Bob has milk. Alice wants milk. Bob wants bread. They want to trade. They come up with an exchange rate. 1 bread is equal to 1 liter of milk. And they agree upon this conversion rate, and the trade is done. What do we call this? This is called barter. We have done this as humanity for millennia until money was invented. Why do we need money? Why do we need something in the middle? The answer is, what happens if Bob does not want bread? Alice wants milk, but Bob doesn't want bread. What she wants, let's say, is eggs, and she wants to trade bread for it. So Charlie is a third person who has eggs. So all three have something that the other needs. But to make this trade, all three have to be in the same location. And to solve this problem, barter was replaced with cash, because Alice and Bob could trade, Bob and Charlie could trade, and Charlie and Alice could trade. So to do this, we want to record a system of debt of who traded with whom and how much they were owed. This implement of noting debt that represents the value of the bread, of eggs, and of milk is called money, cash. So the question then is, who gets to create cash and who regulates how much cash is there? And so now we talk about a history of money. All right. So how did we move from barter to where we are today? And the answer is, let's take a look at the history. So I've not put any dates here, but we're talking prehistoric times, right? We're talking 5,000 years ago. We had barter. And then we replaced barter with some implement that could trade and value a way of noting the debt. These were shells, seeds, bula, salt, as you know, anything. I think in Mexico, they used cocoa beans, I believe. And then in the Greek and Roman times came precious metals, maybe gold, bronze, silver, copper, even iron. But over time, these became very bulky. Metal coins are very heavy, and they are expensive to extract from the ground and to mint it and to put stamps. So then later on, we came up with paper money. This happened, if you know, it started in China with silk made of mulberry paper. Came paper money in China about 1,000 years ago. And then paper money could be printed very easily. So then came the gold standard, which says the paper money should be backed by something, which was gold standard in the early 20th century. As you know, in the United States, this was taken away in the 1920s or 30s, so we don't have any gold standard. And the 1950s came plastic, right? So credit cards, plastic money. And then that was, see the unstoppable innovation, right? We are going from barter to gold to plastic. Then came electronic banking, PayPal and Venmo, and online banking was electronic banking. So in this unstoppable innovation, the latest version of money is cryptocurrencies based on blockchain. So the point I'm trying to make is the nature of money has transformed many, many times. And in the nature of unstoppable innovation, here's the latest innovation of cryptocurrencies, money that is based completely on computing, on computers, and it has no physical, no tangible implementation. So this was sort of a brief history of money. What are some features? What do you think properties that money should have? We would like the money to be unforgeable. We don't want someone to make copies of it, because if you could easily make copies, it has no value. It should be exchangeable. People should accept it. Maybe in a country it is acceptable, but if you go to another country, there's a means of exchanging it. People should accept it. I should be able to go to a store and buy coffee. There should be usability. It should be easily carried, either as a physical thing or on a device, in a computer, on a piece of paper, something where it is usable. So I don't have to carry a lot of money. It should be portable, light enough to carry. It should be divisible. $1 is 100 cents. What if something was cheaper than 1 cent? That doesn't happen anymore, but it should be divisible. It should be made into smaller and smaller. So if I want to buy something of small value, there should be a denomination in the currency to pay for it. Durability, the money should last. It should not become dirty over time or disappear or get broken. So as you know, paper money has some of these problems. We have solved most of this. Actually, we should say that today's paper money is really not paper, it is mostly fiber. And it is pretty durable, it doesn't ruin that much, but over time it does get dirty and torn, and those notes are taken out of circulation and replaced. And finally, we have a property of fungibility. Fungibility means that if I produce a peso, that peso has the same value to everyone. There is no peso that is more valuable than another peso. One peso is always one peso. So that is called fungibility. All right. So let me motivate the topic of blockchain for you. Okay, so here's a question. It's a rhetorical question. What is it that you're seeing on the screen? Looks like a big stone. And yes, I think some of you guessed it. This is coin, this is currency. This is a coin, and this coin is called Rhinestone. It is from the island of Yap. So if you can see here on the right-hand side, we have United States and Mexico. You can see Hawaii, and here in the South Pacific, this is called Micronesia, Tahiti, etc. And here you see there's a small island called Yap, very close to Palau and Guam. So these are islands where they were tribal and they were out of touch with the rest of the world for centuries. So did they have gold and copper coins, paper coins, plastic? No, they used money. They used something local from which they could make money. Maybe shells. I don't think they had cocoa, but maybe they could use shells or feathers. But they wanted something that could hold value. One very important characteristic of money is that it's a store of value. It should be able to store value so people cannot make easily more and more copies of it, which would reduce the value of that coin. So in this island called Yap, they made these stones. You can see here a picture of one stone. Look how many people are needed to carry it. So the way these coins were made is they were made on another island, because Yap did not have the right type of stone. These stones were made of limestone. The limestone was available on another island called Palau, about 400 miles away. So the way these stones were made was, if you wanted a coin, you would commission hire workers to go to the other island. You cooperate with the other island's residents to ask them that, can we go and carve out a stone out of the ground? Carve the stone. These stones were between 1 foot and 12 feet, like very, very heavy. Then you bring the stone back to Yap by sailing your boat. And once the stone arrived, this coin arrived on the island, you have to have a commitment. You have to say, who does this belong to? So everyone is told that this stone is now, this coin belongs to a certain person. Now comes a question for you. Who keeps a ledger? Who keeps the record of the ownership of these coins? And here's this unstoppable innovation, something we have taken from history and motivated where we are today. Question again, who stores a record of who owns the coins? Is the name of the person written on the coin? The answer is no, because soon you'll run out of space and the coin will be full of all these carved names. Do you keep this record with the CFO? Do you have a chief? Do you have a person? The answer is no, because that person could be bribed, he could be forced, I don't know, they could die or something, right? So there is no record. We don't keep a record of this in one person's control. And so the way this was done, and now you'll understand where blockchain idea comes from, is this was an oral ledger. It was told to the whole village, and the way they would do it is every month they would have a big party, fiesta. And you have a party in which you announce to everyone that these are the ownership of every coin. And every villager, every adult villager had this, they would keep this in their head. They would memorize the ownership of every coin. And every month, if any coins change hands, it will be communicated to everyone. This means the ledger was in everyone's head, memorized, and it was passed from generation to generation, and everyone had a copy of the ledger. Do you know anything today that we do something like this? You guessed it, it's called a blockchain. Blockchain is an electronic ledger, and everyone in the community, everyone who's in this network has a full copy of it. Here's, if you today want to see what this stone looks like, you can go to Palau, there where they were trying to make the stone. They ran out of time or money, I don't know what happened, but this is an unfinished stone. You can see it is being carved out of the ground. Look at this stone. This fell into the ocean. And they were bringing it back, it fell into the ocean. They came back to the island to Yap, and they went to the party and said, sorry, we don't have the coin, we did all the work. But it's in the bottom of the ocean. And people looked around and they said, sure, it's okay. We will still keep it in the ledger. And in fact, this stone had more value than the other coins because it was at the bottom of the ocean and people still believed it has value. If you want, you can see it today. You can go dive at it. In those days, they couldn't retrieve it. So this stone, this coin had a special name, coin at the bottom of the ocean. It had more value. So let's talk about some observations about what is innovative about this method. First of all, they didn't have any metal. They didn't have any way to extract metal. They couldn't get gold or copper or bronze. And they wanted something that was scarce, which was not on their own island, it was on another island. It was difficult to make, very hard to mine, a lot of effort. Several humans spent several weeks to make these coins. And in order to make these coins, you had to expend a lot of resource. It was not just easy to start printing it, you had to spend some resource. It was very hard to forge. How do you make a fake rice stone? There is no fake rice stone. Every rice stone is a legitimate stone. Because if you spend the effort to make it and bring it back to Yap, it was a legitimate coin. It is very hard to just divide. You could not divide it. Look how big this stone is. If you wanted to spend half of it, the way this transaction will work, the owner of the coin would give the full coin to someone else and would get a change coin in back. So there's a change, right? You give $1 and you want 50 cents back. So you would get a different coin back. So you can imagine that once these stones were brought to Yap, they did not move because it was very, very hard to move them. You might break them. So guess what they did? They said, this stone never needs to move. These coins are displayed in public. Everyone can see the coins. And all we do is we change the ledger. Anyone know what that is called today? It's called blockchain. The blockchain is public. Everyone can see it. It's in everyone's computers. And the coin simply, you just change the ledger to see who owns which coin. So today, if you want, you can go to Yap and you can see all these coins on the side of the road. They're still sitting there. Many of them been taken by museums, but they are still here. And you see there's no carving on it. It doesn't say this belongs to Marcia or to Nitin Kale. This is just the Marcia Nitin Kale ownership is simply in the ledger, which is in everyone's head. This is blockchain. So I'm going to skip through this one. So now let's make a leap of unstoppable innovation from this stone from several hundred years ago in a primitive island to where we are today. The rice stone is physical. It's made of limestone. Bitcoin blockchain, digital. It is a ledger on your computer. You can put it on your computer, you could put it on your phone. There are even small devices nowadays. Ultimately, there might be some card, but it's fully digital. Rice stones were scarce because limestone is not on Yap, it is on Palau. You have to go 400 miles by boat to find it. In Bitcoin blockchain, there's only 21 million coins, out of which 17 million have already been taken out. We already know 17 million have been mined. Rice stones are carved from limestone. Bitcoins are mined by computers. In rice stone, you had to use a lot of human power, manpower, to make these stones, these coins. In Bitcoin, you have to expend computing. A lot of electricity is used to mine these. And the amount of electricity depends on how many people are mining. So more the competition increases, the more difficult it becomes. Because you don't want these coins to be very easy. Let's say we go back to Yap. If tomorrow everyone started using machines to make these coins, then obviously these coins would not have so much value. So the coin would have to become bigger, or you have to go to some further away island so that it was still scarce. Rice stones were hard to forge. There is no fake rice stone. All rice stones were real. That is the same in Bitcoin. There is no fake Bitcoin because all the Bitcoins are in the blockchain and everyone can see which is which coin. So there is no fake coins. These coins were hard to divide. You could not cut it in half. If you cut it in half, it would lose the value. Guess what happens in blockchain? When you make a transaction, when Alice gives Bitcoin to Bob, her coin is destroyed, is expended, is redeemed, and a new coin is generated with a new number. And now comes the final comparison. The ledger in Yap was oral, which means it was memorized by people. In Bitcoin, because there are so many millions of Bitcoins, we can't remember. Nowadays, no one remembers anything. Everything is on your phone. So here, the blockchain is a ledger and it is maintained by community. Everyone in the network has a full copy of this ledger. So I will now come towards the end of my talk, is what is this blockchain? It is an unstoppable innovation. This idea of Bitcoin created by Satoshi Nakamoto, a pseudonym, we don't know who the real person is. Someone named Satoshi Nakamoto, or some group of people named Satoshi Nakamoto, created this idea of blockchain as a record of a digital ledger. The reason it's called blockchain is because it contains blocks. Blocks is a page of a ledger. It contains transactions. And it's called a chain because every block is connected to the block before it. So although the blockchain goes from left to right, the chain, the reference, every block references the block before it. So I've given you some definitions of blockchain. If you ask to a computer science person, they'll say it's a linked list. It's a data structure. This has existed in computer science for many, many years. If you ask a finance or accounting person, they'll say it's a public ledger and is distributed. Everyone has a copy of this ledger. But if you ask someone in the middle what the social, political, economic, libertarian definition is, they will say it is unstoppable innovation. It's an open and borderless. It's decentralized, public. No need to trust anyone. You only trust your own knowledge of the ledger. It's permissionless. Anyone can go and make the rice stones. Same thing, anyone can go and create these Bitcoins. And it's immutable. That means because everyone has a copy of this ledger, you can't cheat. You cannot steal the rice stones. You cannot steal the coins. In order to steal the coins, you'll have to convince more than half of the Yap Island to change their memory of the ledger. The same thing we use idea in Bitcoin and in blockchains. So I'm going to summarize how this works. Now Alice and Bob have egg and bread and milk. Instead of bartering, they run transactions to each other in some coin, in some cryptocurrency. These transactions are put into a block. This block is validated by some volunteer. And once a block is created, it is sent to all the network participants. Alice, Bob, Charlie, everyone gets a copy of the block. And this is the blockchain. This is like having a party at Yap. Every month, new coins arrive. Some coins change ownership. You have a party, everyone's come to the party, and everyone memorizes the new ledger. Instead of memorizing, we just store it on a computer as a blockchain. And now Alice, Bob, and Charlie, everyone knows that the coin has moved from Alice to Bob. So that is what blockchain is. It is an electronic ledger of transactions. And this ledger is distributed. Every participant has a copy. In addition, in Bitcoin, we use some other technologies, cryptography, economics, game theory, and consensus to make sure that no one can break this blockchain. There's some security in it. So I'm almost at the end of my talk. I'm going to talk about unstoppable innovation. So this is from our dean. In the center of this picture is our dean, Yanis Yortsos. He's an engineer from Caltech originally. He has been at USC for more than 30 years. And he's a current dean of engineering. And he has created this curve, which I want to share with you. This is called the exponential curve of change. If you look at the black inclined line, the arrow, this is how change used to be, kind of slow and predictable. And today is a red line, how quickly things change, and the rate of change itself is increasing. There is new businesses that come out, new technology that comes out. And if you are in the black line and you don't follow the red line, guess what happens? There's a gap between society, technology, and you. So we have to constantly innovate to stay up, to stay in step with the change. Otherwise, you'll fall more and more behind. So he calls this hug the exponential. You want to hug it like this, right? You want to hug this curve. You want to stay with this curve. You want to stay up with innovation, and maybe not even stay up, but to lead this innovation. So here is this mindset of change. We call this the growth mindset. You want to grow with the changing world, which the first X is called hug the exponential. A lot of the others are related to engineering, so I won't go in that direction. But the very first is called hug the exponential. So I invite you all to join on this journey of challenge and opportunity with blockchain technology. What can you do with it? Can you innovate with it? Can you go beyond cryptocurrencies? How can it be disruptive to industry and business? How can it improve our lives? Maybe business, government, society, healthcare. Maybe reduce corruption, improve transparency, equality, diversity. So many new ideas are coming out. I invite you. Maybe I will see you in some other location where we can do some brainstorming to come up with some new use cases. There are already a lot of projects going on in the world. I'm familiar with some of them, but I invite you to join on this journey of unstoppable innovation, especially with blockchain, to change how we have been doing things. The first change of cryptocurrencies already happened. Maybe we can use this for property, for real estate, for voting, okay? Maybe for recording ownership of assets, of property, etc. So at this point, I would like to thank you and leave you with one quote from Elon Musk. because here's my own, new exciting acquisition is a Tesla, because I'm very interested in artificial intelligence, in automation and autonomous cars. So as Elon Musk, who's a visionary of change, of unstoppable innovation, I could either watch it happen or be part of it. So he's already changing the world with SpaceX, with cars, with energy. And I just want to be a simple part of it, but I invite you to join this. I hope you like my message, and I'm happy to take some questions. Thank you. Here's my information. If anyone has further questions beyond today, you can always email me, Kale, K-A-L-E, @usc.edu. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm open to some questions.
Thank you, Professor. Ahora daremos inicio a la sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Les pedimos que si tienen una pregunta, por favor levanten la mano para poder acercarles el micrófono. Les suplicamos también sean breves en la formulación de sus preguntas para dar oportunidad a otros compañeros. Muchas gracias. Parece que no hay preguntas.